Hey, their terms are up, so you and Billy can decide if you want to stay. Right?
Yep. And just so you know, I just started streaming live on YouTube, but yes, I did email the 3 people with expiring terms yesterday, asking them if they'd like to be reappointed or not. Just let me know, and I'll pass the word along.
Am I one of those? I didn't check
Yep.
my email late.
Yeah, Mr. Zuloff, Dr. Siemens, and Mr. Miller.
Yeah, if they'll have me, I'd be happy to do it.
Okay, I will let them know.
Same here.
Okay.
Yay.
It's a tough job,
But it pays well.
willing to suffer.
Well, it's 7:33,
Well, it's not that many.
No.
so why don't we call this meeting of our abbreviated commission to order? Would someone like to make a motion concerning the minutes of last month?
So moved.
Thank you, Judy.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Bill.
Billy? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So, is anybody here that's? gonna be-
Aaron Klein is on Microsoft Teams. Are you guys ready for his update?
Sure.
Yes.
And it looks like Blake is online too, just so you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, guys, this is Aaron. I'm not sure if you can see me or not.
No.
Can hear you fine.
Oh, let me try to see if I can.
I guess while Kristen's doing that, I can probably get,
I don't know if you can hear us, but we just lost you, Aaron. Temporarily, I'm sure. We lost Aaron.
can you hear me?
Still hearing
And
you.
now, yes.
Okay.
What do you
I
want to
see
tell
it
us
still
about
has-
Meg Street, Aaron?
Yeah, I see it still has a city logo, but, so Meg Street, I give you an update on that one. The project is still scheduled to bid in the first quarter of '22, and we are scheduled to probably start construction in the second quarter of '22. Just as a reminder, what that project entails is resurfacing south of Washington and a complete reconstruct between Washington and Meg. So we're going to get rid of that beautiful concrete portion on the north end of Meg's. And then we'll have the bike path going from Water Street straight down on the other side of the curb all the way down to Sycamore, which is where the Hook Park is at that location. And we're also doing water lines and storm sewer work on the north end, north of Washington. So that one should take several months to complete, or it should be completed by next year if we get a good contractor. And I guess I can pause for any questions on that one.
Will the street be closed?
It's not intended to be closed, no.
Okay.
But there will be times when there are definitely flaggers, or, the contractor will have to be routing traffic properly. But if there's a situation that presents itself to be dangerous, maybe we have to install something in the middle of the street, then we'll do that. But right now, the intent is not for it to be closed. We're going to have to go through ODOT and talk to them. It might end up being that we have to do block by block to remove that concrete. And then when they get the base down, we'll open it back up on each block.
Thank you.
Will it resemble Water Street as far as the pathway goes?
Yes, that's something we're working through right now. As part of the project, ODOT's allowing us to put down the striping, the blue and the green striping, but we are not allowed to put the banners in as part of the project. So we're going to try to come in with a second project that's locally funded for those banners and do that work right as the project is ending. But the big difference as far as the layout is we will not have the 5-foot concrete sidewalk abutting the bike path. It's just going to be the 10-foot pathway, which is most likely what you'll see for the remaining portions of the pathway. We won't have the sidewalk as well as the path, just the path.
Any other questions for Aaron?
No.
How about the Justice Center? What can you tell us, Aaron?
Yeah, so we're still moving forward with that project. The architect feels that they can complete detailed design by second quarter of next year and bid it third quarter with construction starting towards the end of the year. We're still in the layout phase and going through a lot of other very preliminary things. Hopefully by January, we should have a decent layout. I know I had intended to present some information to commission maybe by the next meeting or even the first one in February. I should be able to have some images that I can put up on the screen if we can get that to work.
Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I wonder who the architect is. It sounds, we said the architect, so we apparently have an architect.
Yes, sir. Through the chairman, the architect is Bowen, B-O-W-E-N. They've been on the project for about a year and a half
Yeah, okay.
now.
I wasn't paying attention.
No, that's fine. There was a big lull in the project, so they were on from the beginning when we were looking at the previous site and did the preliminary analysis at this location as well to see if it was even viable.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Aaron? How about Causeway Wetlands?
Yes, you guys, I'm assuming still are not seeing my screen. I had a video I wanted to show for this one.
No, sorry, I just texted Stu to see what I might be doing wrong, but I haven't heard back from him yet.
Okay, so that project, as many of you are probably aware by the plethora of trucks traversing Butler and the Causeway, that project is well underway. Right now there are 2 of the fingers, they're almost connected and they're prepping to install the third. Right now they're just putting down what's called quarry rock, which is a smaller stone that is intended to be more of a filter for debris and sediment. On top of that, or on the outside of that, they're going to come back and put some large toe rock and then bring in some other larger rock to cover it to hold everything in place. That's still intended to be completed next year before Cedar Point opens. They're moving along rather quickly, and if you've been out there, it's pretty surreal to see a couple excavators sitting in the middle of the bay.
It's been an exciting conversation point over at Cedar Point. I think it's interesting knowing what you're doing over there and the plans that you submitted to get a grant to do it. So it's exciting to see that come to fruition.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Yeah, that's actually ODNR is pretty excited about the process. We're meeting with the Corps of Engineers and all the other regulators next week, or in 2 weeks, to show them the progress. But it sounds like everybody's pretty happy with what's been going on, and they're looking at seeing seeing this forward, as we still have, 3-4 more years left till we get the final product.
I'm amazed by the skill of the truck drivers that are able to back their trucks down and out into the middle of the bay, dump their loads, and then allow the shovel guy that's at the end to spread it around. It's kind of interesting to watch, so that's good. Any other questions, comments?
I have one question. Is it going to be, I didn't see the plans, is it going to be totally enclosed or not?
The first year or two, it is going to be totally enclosed. We're going to leave the culvert on the north end completely open, but it's going to be completely enclosed. And that's going to allow the Corps of Engineers to have 2 years worth of dredge material placement at this location. And then the sediment will filter through that filter rock, the water will filter through that, and then we'll go with when that sediment is compacted enough, we're planning on, can you see my screen?
No.
No, not yet, Aaron. Hang tight for a second.
That's fine. When that sediment is compacted enough, then we're going to come back through with some of the remaining funds and open it back up and put some channels in there with some fish spawning areas and some wildlife refuges and things like that. So what you'll see for the next few years while the Corps' dredge materials dewatering is going to be a completely enclosed structure with a rib down the middle, and then after that, we will open it back up, but that's several years away.
Thank you.
Any other questions? How about Sandusky Bay Pathway, Aaron?
Yeah, with the pathway and the landing, we are still moving forward, albeit a little bit slowly with the acquisition phase on both of those projects. One thing I can say is we've accepted some money, I think I may have mentioned previously, for East Water Street, and that's for the pavement portion of East Water Street. And with that, we are going to be resurfacing the roadway. Previously, all we were going to do was the bike path, but with the $450,000 that we got from the MPO, we're able to put the roadway into that as well. Being that that's an ODOT funded project, we have to go through their process, and that's going to require a change order as well. Another item that one of the residents brought up that we're still contemplating is on the east end, or I'm sorry, on the west end on Monroe, over where Garner Sanitation is, there's an old rail spur that runs between two of the buildings over there. And we've been in discussions for a little while with one of the property owners who said that if we could figure out a way to acquire that rail spur, that property from the railroad, we could run the pathway between the two buildings, which is about 12 to 15 feet wide, is my understanding. We could string some lights above it, put some art on the sidewalls, do some really neat things to it. And we're looking at our options with that as well. And that would just be a really unique feature that you probably wouldn't see anywhere else, not only on the Sandusky Bay pathway, but on other pathways throughout the state, if we can get something like that accomplished. So that would solve several problems, especially the safety issue of running along Monroe Street, which is not somewhere that we're trying to avoid as much as possible. So I see you have the video up.
We do.
Would you like me to play it real quick?
Sure.
Sure.
So So this is a drone video. What you'll see is the south finger is kind of looped there. Where my pointer is where there's eventually going to be an overflow where we'll route that back out. We'll eventually have a channel coming through the middle with a bunch of little off areas for fish spawning. Like you said, these trucks that are coming through here, I would be backing into the water and make sure I have a life vest on. The northernmost groin is going to start somewhere around this little area here, and it's going to come down this way and leave a wide open channel to make sure that we still are getting through, that we still have enough water going easterly or westerly through that area there. So it'll come out this way and come back down.
Aaron, do I understand you to say water will flow under the roadway from the northern portion of that Sandusky Bay to your wetlands area?
Yeah, eventually. So this area here where we have the culvert that's currently under the road, the last thing we want to do is block that completely off, because we know that there is flow in both directions, and if we block that, it'll just make this whole area pretty nasty.
Yep.
So what our goal is to keep that open, and the end product does filter some of the water coming down this way. Right now it shows it all coming this way and blocking it off here and filtering the water that way, but I'm not sure if that's the best final design or not. We haven't finalized that yet. We might have both approaches where it comes this way and this way, so we have both options for the water. So we're definitely making sure that we're not blocking that area.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. Oh, Judy.
Are there going to be lights on the ends of those so boaters will see it who aren't used to it?
Yes, through the chairman, that's something that's very important to me, is I wanted to make sure that they followed all of the Coast Guard requirements and put enough lights up, put the beacons out there. So that was factored into the project. We're also going to throw some educational signage up at the end, after the last phase, in case there are kayaks or other non-motorized boats that, paddle boards, those types of things that want to get in there. But I'm doing whatever I can do in factoring that into the project. And I've asked them not just at the end of the project, but also during construction, knowing that there are some boaters that want to get out there, over the winter.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know Aaron was talking about the culvert or bridge, whatever we want to call it. And yeah, it's interesting. We probably need more of them. I've seen the water really rip through those culverts. It's not just, because what happens is that whole bay area is impounded more or less, and you get a little lake level change, and of course it all wants to equalize. And I've seen it where it must have been, I couldn't even estimate 20 knots of current just roaring through some of those culverts. I used to live at Point Retreat, and it's a similar thing. It's the same body of water, and on the old Willows Road, it was remarkable how fast the water could rip through there.
Any other questions? Okay, Aaron, how about the landing?
Yes, sir. That project, similarly to the pathway, we're still moving forward with the acquisition phase. We're still trying to figure out the grants as well, based on the new funding package from the federal government. So when they put forward that infrastructure package, it kind of confused the grants that we had applied for the pathway and for the landing. So we're still trying to navigate those waters and figure out what's going on. As you're aware, we kind of put that project, we're kind of in a waiting pattern until we hear back from that, because it could add a year to the design phase by requiring more environmental work. So we're kind of sitting back and trying to leaf through the pages of information that we've received and figure out if we were awarded that $4 million for the landing that we had applied for. So once we figure that out, we'll be able to present a better timeline.
Questions, anyone? Final point we have is west end connectivity.
Yeah, that one, last time I left everybody hanging on that one as we weren't done. Technically, we're still not done, but I think we're gonna end up having to close out the project. The only thing that's remaining after planting trees and having the crosswalk installed is putting up the banners on the AT&T owned poles. And we thought we had reached the end game with them, but now we have to go through another process to be allowed to put those on the poles. So unfortunately, we were trying to get those banners up before the end of the season, but we're at the point now where we're taking them all down. So we're just gonna have to do it with our own crews next year. And so that project is closing out. I doubt we'll see it on here any longer for future updates, but the one thing I do want to point out is we will have those banners up at some point next year.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
what's the problem with the banners, Aaron? Is it a problem with AT&T or what's the?
Bureaucracy. We got permission from one department in AT&T to do it without them telling us that we had to go through a second department to get additional permissions. So it's not that they're opposed to it, it's just that we have to jump through another set of hurdles and another 10-page permit and all these other things. So the banners are good, they're okay with it, it's just a matter of going through their very lengthy process.
Thank you.
That's
Mr.
what
Chair.
you get for asking permission.
Yes. Mark, go ahead.
Aaron, I'm sorry to bother you with this right now, but I did receive a call with regard to the pathway on the west end, allowing for expansion on the right-of-way, I believe was the letter. I don't have the letter in front of me. I've been off work. So as a result, I got a call from Chicago. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Do you know?
I guess what do you mean by expansion of the pathway in the right of way or the?
Well, it was expansion of the pathway in the right-of-way, I guess for a release is how it was put to me. And they were asking, I said it was according to drawing and that the right-of-way extends from the center of the road over, and it may be, because of a 10-foot pathway, a requirement for additional easement in that area. That was my best guess, and I thought I would check with you today.
Yeah, so the pathway, the way that it's being drawn up and the way that you're required to meet federal AASHTO standards is that you have to have the 10-foot right-of-way, but then you have to have the buffers as well. And based on state requirements, we also are required to have a certain amount of stormwater quality associated with the path. So there are areas where we're putting filter strips, which are really just grass swales for the most part. Some areas we might have rain gardens, other areas we might actually have structures, it depends. But that 10-foot pathway is really about a 15 to 20-foot width that we need fully for, not only for the end product, but also for construction. So in many cases, we have a temporary easement that might be a little bit wider than the permanent easement that we're also requesting.
Okay, so I was accurate in my response. I just wanted to make sure of that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Mike?
I keep wondering, because people are talking, and we haven't heard anything about the Beckling building and what's up with, there seems to be a project going on there, or is there anything to share or explain what's up, because people are asking?
I would have to defer to planning on that one, as I'm not sure right now what is happening.
A sort of a prominent feature and would seem to be kind of in our sandbox here, so maybe for the next meeting we can be,
Apprised to that.
yeah.
Any other questions for Aaron? Aaron, thank you for your help. Do you have anything you want to add this morning before we cut you loose?
I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you.
Happy New Year to
I like
you,
your beard,
Aaron.
too. That's nice.
You didn't comment on mine.
Well, I thought you had that. I haven't seen you in so many months. It's a good beard, though.
Yeah,
You could play Santa.
yes, I could. In fact, my grandchildren are calling me that.
All right, well, thank you. We have an item on the agenda, reminder to members about their expiring terms, and I think those that were highlighted in green on this sheet that I got from Kirsten shows that David Miller, Bill Siemens, and Mike Zuloff, terms are up, want to know if they want to be renewed. We've heard from two of them this morning. I don't know what David's decision was, so we can await that. I don't know that we have to take any action on reappointing them, because that's up to the commission. So, have you heard from David?
I don't think I've heard back from him unless he sent
Okay.
me an email yesterday, and I haven't looked at that yet.
I recommend against reappointing that Zuloff guy. Out of the trouble.
Who is that guy?
I don't know.
You said it.
All right. Any community input this morning? Hearing none, how about the motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Our next meeting is,
Did we ask about community input? We
Yes,
did.
he did.
oh, did we? I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I thought that was on the agenda.
We'll pull back from the
Yeah, never mind,
adjournment
we're not
then.
adjourning yet.
Thank you. Barbara Miller-Sigalese. I grew up in Sandusky, left in 1968, returned May of last year. I'm very happy to be back, and I live at 203 Westwater. My windows look out on the new pier. So I saw the finalization of the pier, and it's very exciting. I'm very happy living there, except for one issue, and that's motorcycles parking behind our building. And there's a lot of residents I know live along Shoreline Drive, especially that new development on Westwater and Shoreline. I don't know if it's possible to restrict motorcycle parking along residences. That would be my request, because it makes it awfully hard for people that live along there.
So these temporary people just parking for the day or parking?
They'll park, mostly it's evenings.
Okay,
The bike week was hell.
yeah.
I'm gonna go away this year when it happens. I mean, I understand motorcyclists have as much right as anybody to be on the Shoreline Drive. And they like the pier as well. And the events there are wonderful on the pier. A lot of people are using it. I see it all the time. But that's the downside of living there. And I think you're gonna lose residences or residential owners along there. I know 2 units were sold this year right near Shoreline Park because it's awful. Motorcyclists will park their bikes right behind the building, and there's only a sidewalk separating my windows. I'm on the 3rd floor, but still separating the windows from the street. They'll park there, rev their motors for 10, 15 minutes, and there can be 5 or 10 of them parked along there. It's just miserable. And
So the objection is noise.
please?
It's noise.
Yeah,
Noise
and
is
I
the
called
complaint.
twice about the noise ordinance, and they kind of laugh at me.
Mr.
The
Chair.
first time the dispatcher said, oh, well, it's nice weather. That has nothing to do with it. You know, you want to enjoy living here. During the week, it's not terrible in the summer, but on the weekends, it was really bad. And I don't know, you know, I expect to hear motorcycles driving down Shoreline, but it would be great if they couldn't park there. They can park on the pier, they can park in the big lot behind the theater, anywhere else, but can that be restricted?
Do you have an association in the building that you live in?
No.
Okay.
We're part of H2 though.
And have you brought this previously to the attention of the city commission?
No.
Well, you know, we're happy to note your complaint and can bring it to the attention of the commission through our ex officio member, Blake Harris, and see if he might not, you know, determine if there's anything that can be done.
We toured the building one time when I was walking by, I met him. He gave us a tour of the new properties on West Water. I could mention it to H2, but they aren't terribly responsive to requests for help.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. They have the right to ride, but they have an obligation to be respectful to the people that live in those residences.
And they probably don't realize people live along there.
Right.
Because I assume a lot of these people don't live in the area.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mike.
for reasons I don't understand, and I'm kind of interested in this too, because I do live downtown as well, have for 20 years. For all automobiles, cars and motorcycles, all motor vehicles are, for all practical purposes, are subject to EPA regulations. They come from the factory and they have to be below a certain noise threshold. And it's lower for cars. Motorcycles are actually allowed by the federal law to be louder, but not as loud as they are. And for some reason, we have like basically a national policy to kind of look the other way. And I don't know why we do that, but we do. And so if they lapsed, I'm sure they didn't need to be disrespectful, but anybody who's involved with that sort of enforcement, you know, knows that we're not going to get anywhere doing anything about it. I don't know, or maybe nobody wants to. I think it's sort of an interesting thing that we're kind of ignoring on a national scale this issue, to the point where some of the vehicles are an actual quantifiable, provable health hazard if you're too close to them and standing behind them when they're being operated. So, you know, and I like motorcycles. I've owned motorcycles. I have a motorcycle endorsement. I like riding, but I'm baffled by the necessity of being that loud, just for the sake of being BA or, you know, for the sake of hooliganism. So, yeah, if you'd like to talk about it more after the meeting or something, I'd actually be interested in your experiences and how you feel about it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I could ask some questions.
Sure.
Ma'am, is there a particular time of day or week that you experience this?
Well, the weekends are worse, obviously, because they're not working.
Right.
Of course, during the early part of the pandemic, because I came during lockdown, it was very quiet. But as things opened up, it got worse. And the weekends are worse. And it's usually between 4 and 11.
At night?
And I know there's a noise ordinance because I looked into it, but it's not being enforced. And one time when I called the police, of course, the motorcyclist can be away before the police arrive, but the policeman just drove right past him and didn't even say anything to him. And I was dumbfounded. And I know it's not a crime, but it's certainly annoying.
Do they have a tendency to rev their engines?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's normally what they do when I understand what you're saying there.
And I realize we have the Harley dealership here, so that probably adds to the mix.
And is this parking on street parking, public area parking? Okay. And the other question I was going to ask you was, with regard to that noise aspect, do you find it dissipating, or do you see that it's more or less, and I think you already answered it, the dinner time, the bar closings, those type of situations?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And one other point that I would make, I know they could put up signs, but again, it's a question of who's going to enforce it. It's an issue, and you know, we, as I said, will report in our minutes to the commission, and I don't know if we can't do anything about it. We can make note of it and report, and we'll certainly do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Kevin?
Yes, Judy?
Have you talked to the chief of police?
Probably not. Oh, wait a minute. One time you're talking to the previous chief of police. I did talk to him once last year about this.
I would suggest that you contact him and, you know, get his take on it.
Do they have breakfasts with police here?
Yeah.
Because they did in my previous community, and that was helpful because you could discuss these issues. I don't know. If
We have in the past.
They have in the past, I don't know if they have recently, they meet at one of the downtown coffee spots, and they're open to the public, and they usually hand out things from the police department, which is nice. So,
Yeah, pandemics messed everything up as far as scheduling those type of
That's
things.
true. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
for coming. Okay, well, we are adjourned at 8:10. The motion was made by Mark and seconded by Joe, so we are then finished for this morning. Next meeting, January 6th, and we'll get some heads up about that before we have a meeting as to what's on the agenda.
Yeah.
Kristen, thank you.
Thank you.
Breakfast? Breakfast?
Breakfast.
Breakfast?